ADRA provides aid and solidarity to victims of severe flooding in Romania. The first women's convention in Malaysia inspires hundreds with messages of faith and spiritual growth. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil gathers thousands of Pathfinders to celebrate faith and promote emotional health. Adventist Medical Aviation in the Philippines receives NGO support to protect girls from abuse. Proclaiming God's love through literature, Pacific Press celebrates 150 years. These and other news now, here on ANN. The Romanian Seventh-day Adventist Church and ADRA have launched a nationwide campaign to support victims of Cyclone Boris. The Hope Above Waters project aims to restore lives in the hardest-hit areas.
Romania is going through difficult times, especially the Moldavia region, which is the most affected by floods. Mrs. Anna did not want to leave the house at first, but when the water reached her waist, her son carried her on his back, and they barely made it to the cultural center to save their lives. In 2 weeks, we have the wedding. We have prepared the whole house, and now we don't even know where to start getting rid of the muck. Cyclone Boris left behind destroyed homes and lives changed forever. Over 5,000 affected households, lost human lives, thousands of people without power, shivering children and adults left with only the clothes on their backs, crying as they removed the mud from their homes. Elderly people, individuals with chronic illnesses, pregnant women, and people with disabilities have ended up sleeping in mobile camps, in cars, or with relatives in other localities. But in the midst of this tragedy, there is hope. Hope Above the Waters, a project by ADRA Romania that supports those affected by floods. ADRA is on the front line, providing immediate assistance through packages of non-perishable food, hygiene kits, water, and other necessary products. But we also need you. Every contribution matters, whether it's financial donations, clothes, food, hygiene products, construction materials, or your time as a volunteer. Together we can rebuild homes, we can provide food and clothing, but most importantly, we can restore hope. Every act of kindness makes a huge difference.
As Cyclone Boris affects Romania, the Adventist Church and ADRA rallies nationwide support. Their collection drive aims to bring swift relief to flood victims. We'll keep those affected in our prayers. The first Women's Ministries Convention of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Malaysia took place at the Palace Hotel in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, bringing together nearly 800 women from across the region.
With the theme Flourish for Mission, the event united a diverse group of women to strengthen their spiritual lives and service in the church and community. Leaders shared messages on spiritual growth and the essential role women play in the church's mission. Pastor Abel Bana, president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Malaysia, encouraged participants to embody the resilience of a palm tree, symbolizing a flourishing Christian life. Raquel Arias, Women's Ministries Director of the Northern Asia-Pacific region, emphasized that flourishing in mission is only possible through Jesus, who is the one who prepares women to flourish and serve. While Virginia Beloyo, Women's Ministries Director of the Southern Asia-Pacific region, urged the participants to embrace their unique gifts and use them to further the mission of the church. The event provided practical tools and spiritual insights, covering topics like leadership development, mental health, and community service, inspiring attendees to return home with renewed commitment to their mission.
Events like these inspire us to strengthen our commitment to flourish for Jesus, not just within our community, but everywhere we go. The Pacific Press Publishing Association celebrates 150 years of sharing God's love through literature. This anniversary highlights a rich history and a renewed commitment to spreading hope.
The Pacific Press celebrates its 150th anniversary in Nampa, Idaho, at the Northwest Nazarene University Auditorium. The event, themed Proclaiming God's Love for 150 Years, brought together 300 past and present workers, as well as supporters from various regions, all united by a shared commitment to spreading the Christian message. The celebration featured poignant reflections on the press's resilience throughout its history, particularly its ability to overcome significant challenges, including the devastating earthquake and fire of 1906. These events tested the organization's resolve, but ultimately reinforced its mission to publish uplifting content. Musical performances by the Christian Edition Men's Chorus infused the celebration with joy and inspiration. Throughout the event, the contributions of Pacific Press in spreading hope and faith around the globe were acknowledged, with special mention of partnerships with other Adventist publishing houses that amplify the mission. Keynote speakers, including G. Alexander Bryant, President of the North American Division, and Ted N.C. Wilson, General Conference President, inspired attendees. They emphasized the importance of sharing one's faith with conviction, encouraging everyone to continue the mission. This gathering served as a testament to the enduring impact of Pacific Press, which has played a vital role in disseminating faith-based literature through books, magazines, and various media outlets over the decades.
Pacific Press has been a key player in the Seventh-day Adventist Church's mission, proving that even in challenging times, the message of hope can reach far and wide. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, was the stage for a major celebration that brought together thousands of Seventh-day Adventists from across the state to celebrate, worship, and promote solidarity. The event, which hadn't taken place for over 20 years, emphasized the importance of the Pathfinder Club and raised an important alert about emotional health.
More than 15,000 Adventists gathered at the Apoteos Square for the Cariocal Desbravando o Rio. The event, held in September, celebrated Pathfinder Day. More than 8,000 children and teenagers participated in a march to raise awareness for Yellow September, highlighting suicide prevention and mental health support. The traditional Apoteos Square, famous for its parades that draw crowds, hosted the lively march of the Pathfinders.
Hike, campfire.
The event also included the collection of over 3,300 pounds of food, which will be distributed by the Adventist Solidarity Action. The celebration also recalled historical gatherings of the Adventist Church in Rio, with performances by singers and pastors who marked those moments. Among them were Sonette and Williams Costa Jr., who added a nostalgic touch to the celebration. The event was enriched with spiritual moments, and 23 people were baptized. Guests shared messages of faith, revival, and peace. Pastor Fernando Iglesias emphasized that Jesus wants all of our hearts and encouraged trusting in God even in times of suffering. Quoting the story of Samson, Pastor Eduardo Batista warned young people about distractions that take the focus away from heaven, such as pornography, lies, and others.
If there is one thing we cannot continue to be, it is distracted. Stay alert, brother. Open your eyes. Samson gets distracted, and consequently, he destroys himself.
The enthusiastic crowd participated in many moments of worship with Christian music singers.
Such a joy to be part of this celebration. Congratulations, Pathfinders. In 1885, a large party of Adventist missionaries traveled from the United States to Australia. Today's episode of Mission 150 tells the stories of that first group of missionaries and the early years of Adventist mission in Australia and the South Pacific.
So today we're going to be talking about the first Adventist missionaries and early Adventist mission to Australia. Why was the decision made to go to Australia?
You'll remember that we as an Adventist denomination were getting excited about mission during the 1870s and through until the 1880s, 1890s. The decision to go to Australia really stemmed from an interaction between Stephen Haskell and a lady by the name of Hannah More, who I think we've talked about before on these podcasts. Hannah More went as a missionary to Africa, and there she met an Australian by the name of Alexander Dixon. Together they started to keep the Sabbath. When Dixon returned back to Australia, he apparently took his Sabbath-keeping practice with him, and he lived in a little town called Maitland in New South Wales. However, it seems that after a short time, he abandoned his Sabbath-keeping and travelled across to the United States, where by chance he met Stephen Haskell. Haskell interacted with Dixon, and he himself became convicted that the church should start to think about Australia. At the time, Haskell was president of the California Conference, and at the session of the conference in 1884, he endeavoured to raise funds and to get an action taken to initiate a group to go as missionaries to Australia. They took an action, in fact, and then at the General Conference session in 1884, a further action was taken, and a group was put together. Stephen Haskell himself put together a group who were to be the first pioneers, as it were, of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Australia.
For the full episode and other videos delving deeper into the Seventh-day Adventist faith and its story, visit Adventist Review TV on YouTube. An exciting journey through the history of the Adventist Church. During October, the Adventist community across the South Pacific region is celebrating Adventist Heritage Month, reflecting on the past and inspiring the future.
With a special focus on young people, Adventist Heritage Month offers a series of events and activities that highlight the rich history of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Among the highlights is the celebration of 175 years of literature evangelism, along with the release of the film The Hopeful, which takes us back to the early days of Adventism.
The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens fall.
According to Adventist Heritage Director David Jones, this year's Ellen White Symposium will also address important topics such as abolitionism and the social engagement of the Adventist pioneer, reflecting on the impact of her leadership during times of great social challenges, much like today.
In the days of Ellen White, many were willing to stand up and make bold statements about their beliefs. This was an era of civil war, when states all took a stand for or against slavery. Ellen White saw the beginning of segregation laws and the women's movements, and could confidently claim she lived in a time of activism.
Fast forward to the 21st century, and we too are experiencing an era of social upheaval. Pandemics, restrictions, gender identity, abortion, climate change, racism, mental health, injustice, war and feminism are plastered across our screens each night. It seems everyone is passionate about something. Many today, especially our youth, are gripped by the desire to protest inequalities and speak out for the rights of those in need. But while this may seem a modern trend, 200 years earlier, Ellen White was doing much the same.
Community events like the Heritage Day Picnic and daily worship readings on social media maintain the spiritual connection and a sense of unity. To conclude the month of celebrations, the traditional grand gathering and a special sing-along bring the community together in praise and gratitude. David Jones concludes by explaining that this is a month full of opportunities to connect with the rich Seventh-day Adventist heritage and live out the example of Jesus in words and actions.
Many feel it would be a great privilege to visit the scenes of Christ's life on earth, to walk where he trod, to look upon the lake beside which he loved to teach, and the hills and valleys on which his eyes so often rested. But we need not go to Nazareth, to Capernaum, or to Bethany in order to walk in the steps of Jesus. We shall find his footprints beside the sickbed, in the hovels of poverty, in the crowded alleys of the great city, and in every place where there are human hearts in need of consolation. In doing as Jesus did on earth, we shall walk in his steps.
What an interesting journey of honoring the past, celebrating the present, and inspiring the future of the Adventist Church. On World Peace Day, the Seventh-day Adventist Church advocates for global peace, reconciliation, and justice through its Doing Justly event held in Maryland, United States.
On September 14th, leaders from Washington Adventist University's Center of Law and Public Policy, the General Conference's Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department, and ADRA convened for the Doing Justly Peace Building in an Unequal World program. The event emphasized the Christian call for peace building and showcased ADRA's humanitarian work in over 120 countries. Jonathan Scriven, co-director of the Center for Law and Public Policy, highlighted the significance of dialogue and the role of faith-based organizations in promoting peace. Speaker Bill Knott, from Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department for the General Conference, discussed the importance of reconciliation and following Christ's example. Imad Madanat, Vice President of ADRA International, detailed ADRA's evolution from post-World War II relief to its current focus on development and peace building, encompassing education, livelihoods, health, and disaster relief with an unbiased approach. During the program, various speakers reinforced that, despite our cultural and religious differences, we are all created in God's image and called to be peacemakers, emphasizing that true faith is reflected in our actions and that everyone has a role in promoting peace.
The Holy Scriptures declare in Ephesians 2:14, Christ is our peace. As Seventh-day Adventists, we are called to emulate his example and become peacemakers in our communities and beyond. Now let's head to Palawan Island in the Philippines, where Steve Dickman from Outpost Centers International, an Adventist NGO supporting volunteer initiatives worldwide, speaks with Sean Knapp, director of the Philippine Adventist Medical Aviation Services. They discuss the interventions needed to help many girls and young women in the mountain villages near the mission aviation base who face challenges like abuse and early marriages.
Sean, you are the director of the Philippine Adventist Medical Aviation Services that's happening here in Palawan, our Palawan base. And you also, Thomas has formed a very strong relationship with Child Impact.
That's cool.
Tell us about what you're planning to do on this piece of property right here.
Well, this piece of property here is an answered prayer that we've been praying for many years.
Okay.
You know, if you look at our airstrip, which is just across the rice fields here, you'll notice it's all low ground. And we have been praying for higher ground, and then when Child Impact, they saw a project that we've been wondering how it could ever happen. That would be a safe house for the indigenous young women.
Now, why do the young indigenous women need a safe house?
Well, it's not nice to really talk about, but there's a fair amount of abuse that actually happens in the mountains. And we notice that the families, the only ways they know how to solve it is either push that child, the young girl, into an early marriage. And this can be 9 to 12 to 16 years old. And then we have this immediate need of our young women who are delaying the early marriage. They're continuing their education.
Right.
They're walking with God. They are in the local senior high school here, and they're staying in Thomas, but we don't have any facility that has them. So Child Impact saw this whole picture, and they took this project on. And just about 3 months ago, this land came to our notice. Again, we had given up on the other sites we were looking at, and we were just asking about where can this happen? Here's a ministry looking to fund that, coming behind this goal. aware, and this land came up. And right now, we're just waiting for the title to change hands.
Okay.
You can see it's absolutely beautiful.
So how much land do you have here?
We're looking at 6 hectares, roughly 15 acres.
About 15 acres of property. And on this property, you'll build a safe house to house how many young ladies?
Around 40 to 50.
40 to 50 young ladies. And maybe an agriculture program, some kind of a school here. Wow, what an amazing thing to help young ladies who are at risk at this stage of their life to be able to get a better, in a better position for life.
Giving them more options.
More options, delaying maybe being a mother, delaying those kinds of things, an early marriage, giving them the opportunity to really grow up and have a chance at life.
This collaboration between organizations is set to transform their future, ensuring a safe and educational environment. In remote Togiak, Alaska, young Kezia finds unexpected faith through community and play. Watch as a simple invitation to Bible Boot Camp sparks a transformative journey.
10-year-old Kessia loved summer in her native village of Togiak, Alaska, in the United States. There was no school, and she could play all day outdoors. How she loved to play with her friends. They played tag and hide and seek and climbed on things. But then Josephine came over with an invitation. Josephine was a kind young woman whom all the kids, including Kessia, loved dearly. Josephine asked, "Would you like to go to Bible Boot Camp?" Kessia had never heard of Bible Boot Camp, and she asked what it was. Josephine said it was another name for Vacation Bible School, and it was a lot of fun. Kessia didn't want to disappoint Josephine, but she didn't want to go. It was summer, and she wanted to stay outdoors to play tag and hide and seek and to climb on things. So she didn't go to Bible Boot Camp when it started. However, her older brother and sister went, and they loved it. Kessia decided to give Bible Boot Camp a chance. She learned a lot about God. She learned that He rested on the seventh day of creation, and that He asks people also to rest on the Sabbath. She was glad to know more about Him. After Bible Boot Camp ended, Josephine invited Kessia to go to church on Sabbath. Kessia didn't want to disappoint Josephine, but she didn't want to go. It was still summer, and she wanted to stay outside to play tag and hide and seek and to climb on things. But then Josephine told Kessia's mother about going to church on Sabbath. Her mother said to Kessia, "I think it's a good idea. I want to go to church on Sabbath." Kessia's older brother and sister also invited her to go with them to church on Sabbath. They had started going after Bible Boot Camp. To Kessia, it seemed like everyone wanted her to go to church on Sabbath, so she went. At church, she learned more about God, and she was happy to know God better. The next summer, when Kessia was 11, Josephine told her about a summer camp where kids enjoyed yummy food, made new friends, and learned more about God. "Would you like to go?" Josephine asked. Kessia didn't have to be asked twice. It was summer, and at camp, she could play tag and hide and seek and climb on things. She also wanted to know more about God. Kessia loved Camp Polaris. She enjoyed the yummy food and making new friends. She was happy to see that Josephine was a camp leader. And best of all, she got to know more about God as she sang songs and listened to morning and evening worship talks. Before she knew it, the week was over and the kids were packing up to go home. Kessia felt sad to say goodbye to her new friends. But then a friend spoke about coming back to camp the next year. Kessia thought, "Next year? I didn't know there was a next year." The next summer, she returned to camp, and she kept on coming back every year after that. When she was 16, she became more than a camper. She became a counselor in training, helping leaders work with the kids. Kessia said it was hard to learn to act like a grown-up leader at camp. "I am used to being a kid," she said. "I am trying to be a leader." Part of a previous 13 Sabbath offering helped improve Camp Polaris with new cabins, toilets, and showers. Kessia and the children at Camp Polaris are grateful to everyone who gave to that offering. Thank you for your support of mission.
Kezia's journey reminds us that faith often grows from life's little moments. With our support through the 13th Sabbath offering, Camp Polaris will keep opening doors for children like her. I hope you enjoyed this multicultural experience of news, highlighting service, faith, love of neighbor, and hope from the Seventh-day Adventist Church worldwide. Present in over 200 countries, the denomination seeks to be the hands and feet of Christ through its members, leaders, administrative headquarters, institutions, and support ministries. You can access other good news by joining the official channels of the Seventh-day Adventist Church on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and also on the ANN website, adventist.news. Share your faith journey and submit prayer requests on our channels. Our team is committed to praying for you 24/7. Before I say goodbye, I leave you with the inspiring words from the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. The text says, "He has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God?" Study the Bible daily to discover other wonderful promises of hope. God willing, we will meet in the next edition of ANN Video. God bless you. Take care.